Welcome to Broken Backlinks, the podcast where we explore the maze of SEO with a dash of humor. Ever wondered why some links lead to treasure while others to nowhere? Join me and my guests as we navigate the digital sea. From stormy 404s to the sunny shores of page one, buckle up. It's going to be a fun ride, one broken link at a time.
Hello and welcome to the very first episode of the podcast called Broken Backlinks. Brought to you by the one and only WordPress, which is the one-stop shop to do anything with links. I'll make sure that this podcast is your SEO journey with us is as thrilling as a roller coaster. People who know me, people who know WordPress, and of course with the wordplay of Broken Backlinks, expect lots of banter, lots of laugh, but also have famous and familiar faces or the upcoming newbies within the world of SEO or digital marketing to have a bit of a chit chat, a bit of friendly banter, but also lots of knowledge nuggets going to you. So get ready, hold on to your meta tags because we are about to take off. As of today, I've got three absolutely fantastic gentlemen. Honored to call them my friends as well. They're very close to WordPress as a brand anyways. We've got Charles Floate, clearly needs no introduction, but we also have got Tom Jauncey and Jake Ashby, who are co-founders of Nautilus Marketing. But gents, and of course my audience, before we actually get into the introductions and start asking the questions, as I said, my podcast is cut from a different thread, from a different cloth. I'm not going to go around and do the standard thing. So let me just quickly delve into the first minute and a half of the latest SEO gossips or news, because this is where you get your hot and fresh SEO news coming out. So I'm sure people have looked and heard a lot about the recently concluded SEO Vibes conference in Zakopane in Poland, which was an absolute blast. Next one coming up is the SEO Estonia, done by Kyle Kango and Kyle Roof. I'm sure a lot of you would be visiting, and if you can't find me in one of the conferences, in one of the auditoriums, then surely you'll spot me next to the bar. So come in and have a chat with me. Anything to do with backlinks, anything to do with Google algorithms, or you just want to go out and get pissed drunk with me, then I'm your man. So let's get right into it. I'll make that mini introduction myself. One of the most legendary and recognizable faces when it comes to unique SEO tactics, the one and only Charles Floate. Welcome, Charles.
Appreciate you having me, Stephen. What an introduction.
Brilliant. And then, of course, we've got the nerdy twins from Nautilus Marketing, Tom Jauncey and Jake. So I'll probably ask you, Tom, you're obviously one of the co-founders in Nautilus, and I'm sure my audience would love to know what exactly is your role in Nautilus and what is Nautilus Marketing?
I guess the technical is CEO, but we don't use that, so head nerd for the win. We're a full service agency, so we do SEO, we do websites, we do logo design, graphics, so we're a bit of not a one-trick pony, one might say. Brilliant.
And a similar question for you, Jake. You seem to me, at least from my end, that you're the stable force. You're the one which holds the fort together in Nautilus Marketing. Love to know more about it.
Well, I'm a head nerd as well. Obviously, in the technical term, it would probably be MD or CEO, but we won't go there. So I guess you could say I keep Tom together so he can hold the fort. I do a lot of the data stuff behind the scenes and the strategy stuff. And Tom, you'll see more of Tom on the camera than you'll see me, put it that way.
Yeah. I think you guys have that roles evenly split up. Tom obviously kind of being the face of the business, love his podcast as well, and that's, the audience watching surely tune into Tom's weekly is it podcast? Tom, is that what you do? Yeah,
indeed.
Yeah, not to mention, of course, Charlie keeps throwing around all these fantastic interviews of all the legendary faces. So if anyone who hasn't subscribed to Charlie's channel yet, then do so, because you're missing out on a lot of knowledge nuggets. But yeah, let's get into the meaty bit. I've got some interesting questions lined up for these three fine gentlemen. Charles, the first one, I think I'm going to throw it right at you, mate. So, you've of course been known for some very unique SEO techniques over the years. What's that one unconventional method you swear by that it still works no matter what Google algorithm updates happens, no matter what people say SEO is dead? Like one thing which Charlie's always used and he'll stand by it till SEO is really dead.
Yeah, everybody's going to say, Parasite SEO is the go-to for me, because everybody's going to say I've been non-stop on about it for the last 2 years and how it's been playing into Google's treatment of authority and UGC signals, and effectively the more they put emphasis on those signals, the more it works. And even with the recent spam reputation abuse policy changes and updates, they haven't really been able to target it. They've targeted subdirectory levels of newspapers and organisations that have been abusing it at the subdirectory level, but they have not been able to hit root domains. So realistically, I think that would be the main technique. However, the only reason it's really working is because of links, right? So it's all just going back down to the root cause of everything in SEO, which is links and link building and link authority kind of being the favour and the main signal that Google is using throughout their analysis of the SERPs and analysis of pages to see which should be ranked and things. So links have always been the go-to prioritisation, and I think with AI content becoming more and more of a issue for Google to be able to actually deal with, like things like index bloat, and just the ability to create content is so much faster and cheaper, and that's becoming more and more affordable. I think within the last 12 months Google has made Gemini 1.5 tokens something like 36 times cheaper for the same token. So the content from AI content last year was cheap anyway, and now it's 36 times cheaper than it was. It's way more affordable, way more accessible for people to actually generate content, even if they're not an expert on that topic, because the AI can theoretically be an expert for them. So going back to the original thing, links are still the signal. They will continue to be the signal, and even when it comes to AI summarization, they will still likely be the prioritization. And even if they're not, then the ability to build pages on these huge authority or these huge niche websites will then allow you to create that consensus, which the AI is going to summarize anyway.
I agree. And because you've always been the pioneering person in terms of new SEO techniques or even coining new phrases, I think with all of these algo updates happening, I think, Charlie, it's time in one of your episodes on your YouTube channel, stop calling it Parasite SEO and just coin a new phrase where people don't have any negative connotations. Because the moment they hear about Parasite SEO, they run a country mile. So I think it's time, Charlie, where you need to just re-educate the SEO industry out there and just make it sound everything's fine, it's still white hat.
The white hats are trying to call it barnacle SEO, and I'm just like, oh man, that just sounds so bad, It makes me just want to run a mile from it. So I'm like, don't ruin my glorious technique with such a terrible name. But it's one of those where I actually think it's kind of funny how a lot of the white hat industry would say that black hat was the risky technique and all of this kind of stuff. And actually recently in the last 12 months, because of things like helpful content, Google has actually just been smashing small bloggers and these white hat little niche sites and expert blogs and things. And actually now that kind of style is potentially the riskiest, and Parasite is the least risky because you're never using your own domain name or anything like that. You're just using other people's sites. And if anything, Google has only ever, like I said, hit the subdirectories. They've never hit the root domains of any of these huge news sites, because realistically they can't, because they're gigantic news organizations and things, and they have just as good lawyers as Google has. But we will end up, you end up seeing that these small sites actually get their entire website removed, and it's only specific subsections of these news organisations. So even if they do get clawed up, you just go to another newspaper that isn't getting
correct.
Clawed up in this. So realistically, that whole risky black hat approach, if you're doing Parasite, isn't even as risky as these white hat small blogs are anymore. So
I agree, because the recent site reputation abuse, when that happened, so all the Outlook Indias and all of them, so they all went through those penalties. But literally 2 hours later, I think it was you who shared it on LinkedIn, where there were new sites literally taking their position within the hour. And I was like, come on guys, what's the point of all that update when just another person would come in and take top spot again? So.
Exactly, yeah. They just swap over time, right? And that the whole point of Parasite SEO is that you pivot to whichever site is working the best at any given time. And generally Google does favour specific sites just because of how the signals work, and specific sites are going to have better signals than others at whatever time those signals are favoured within Google's algorithm. And a lot of the time people are saying, oh, Google are making active improvements to the algorithm. I wouldn't say that a lot of the updates have necessarily been improvements to the search quality results. I think that they're just changing signals and on a testing level to see what works, because the engineers who created the algorithm in the first place aren't there anymore, and it's kind of a bit of a Frankenstein mismatch of all of these patches of people putting in different information and different tweets and things, and now there's no one person with a clear overview of what the algorithm actually does anymore.
I agree. Similar question for you, Tom and Jake. By the way, gents, I actually thought at the top of the podcast I'm just going to call you Tom and Jerry, but
that could be a new branding technique, isn't it?
Which it does seem to me sometimes. Every time I kind of run into you in one of those conferences, it is a bit of a Tom and Jerry situation going on. But sticking to what I asked to Charles, you of course do a bit of SEO within your agency as well. Now, you guys know about Parasite SEO. We have been talking about it off camera as well. So, since the algo updates, are you gents finding it more difficult to drive SEO campaigns or convince your clients when you go on these discovery calls to them either keep investing the same amount of money or increase their budget when it comes to SEO campaigns? And is Parasite SEO something which the moment you bring up, they're like, oh, you're clearly not a good fit for us? Or is it something, do you know what I'm saying? How do you play the Parasite SEO card?
I think I actually was talking to someone about this at the conference, because they were saying, is SEO still like a viable service that you can offer clients? And I said, well, yes, because it's always changing. I mean, it's a great thing from a Google perspective, but also for like SEOs, we're constantly like thinking of different things to do or looking at new tactics and techniques. And there was the whole debate, wasn't there, about no follow links and do follow links, and do they actually mean any different and things like that. We've been playing about stuff like that on our website with like digital PR and seeing if it actually makes a difference, and it doesn't. So I think as long as people sell SEO as, oh, we're going to improve your rankings, rather than actually like selling what you're actually doing, so increasing traffic, bringing awareness to the website, leads, etc. It doesn't. I think some clients that we work with especially, they're just very happy for us to crack on and do what we need to do as long as they see the results. So as long as we're not doing anything naughty, then it doesn't really matter, as long as we are achieving what we said we would achieve in the KPIs we've set with the client. But it's always an ever-changing landscape, and I don't think that's ever going to change anytime soon, because Google are lovely people.
They are.
Yeah.
They are.
Google kind of reminds me of it's trying to please Tom all the time. It's one day you do it really well, and the next day he'll have a face like a slapped arse for no reason, and I'm like, what have I done? What do I have to do to make it better?
I agree. It's quite funny what Tom said. As long as we're not doing anything naughty, yet you guys are called the naughty nerds.
Yeah. Who's the more naughty one, Tom?
I'd probably say you.
Yeah, of course. Of course you would.
What do you think, Jake? Obviously, I'm assuming you guys kind of go into these sales calls together, but I know when it comes to technology, within Nautilus Marketing, you're the man, you're implementing all of that. Has that happened a lot where Tom's been on a call and he just comes down, he's agreed to stuff which you probably have never done, and he just passes it over to you? Jake, that's the money, mate, make it happen.
Not in particular, to be honest. I guess leading back to the question around SEO and on discovery calls, I found personally that it's very large corporations, when you do fill out an RFP, which we very rarely do. If an RFP takes any longer than 10 minutes for me to look at, I'm absolutely not interested. But if we have been on a few calls where, for example, a really big company in London wanted to do an SEO migration, and they wanted more the technical side and how we were going to do it. So we told them exactly how we were going to do it, and they were like, oh, it's not a technical enough answer. And it was like, well, we know what we're doing. We've told you what we're going to do. What more do you want? Do you want to come in our office and we'll do it with you, shall we? But then we've got other clients that aren't like huge corporations where they just like, right, I want to be on Google, I want to be on the first page of Google, I want my blogs to rank, can you do it for me? Yes, we can. Great, perfect. And then it kind of stays there. We have had instances where we've seen drops with Google updates, more so the ones in the past, not so much recent. But it's about managing expectations, really. We keep our clients aware that Google are regularly doing updates. They probably don't even know what they're doing behind the scenes. The OG engineer is no longer there from whenever it was, as Charles said. So as long as you keep them kind of in the loop, they're generally quite happy with it.
I agree. Yeah, trust me, I've gone into client calls, and I go into client calls almost every day. And sometimes, with all due respect to everyone out there, like I've gone in trying to have a strategic conversation of how we're going to do their SEO optimized content or do these link building campaigns. And I clearly see, especially in the UK market, where link building is so frowned upon as well.
Yeah.
And the knowledge seems to be not even basic. It's like, don't know, mate, we've got the budget now, you're the expert, let's get on with it. But with the element of link building, you got to do your due diligence. Even though we've got a marketplace here about WordPress, but we've given the data to you, that's our best guess based on data we see, but you can't predict anything what might or might not happen. There are case studies, and I'm sure all three of you do exactly the same, but it gets a bit difficult when people start asking for guarantees. And is that something all three of you still face, even though Charlie obviously has a million case studies to show and all? But surely Charles would also be approached by some high ticket clients, big brands and all of that, virtually kind of asking for guarantees, because let's face it, the bigger you get, the more expectations people are kind of loading onto you. So how do you, this is actually a question to all three of you, even though your career trajectories within SEO are quite different at this stage, how do you manage these expectations? Maybe Charles first.
Go on, Charles.
Yeah, so I number one, I hated clients. Like it's the reason why I sold my agency. I sold two agencies actually, because I just hated clients. Like I would get phone calls at 3 o'clock in the morning from drunk clients, like, what do you think about social media? And I'm like, I'm an SEO agency. I have no, like, what? Leave me alone. Like, the hell? And so rule number one, don't give any client your personal number at all. I learned that very quickly. But in terms of guarantees, nowadays, because I just do consulting, obviously there's the responsibility isn't on me. So if I was to say, oh, well, I'll guarantee you me number one tomorrow, well, I could give them all the work of the world, tell them the exact plan, it would work perfectly. But if they don't execute, then I'm not getting paid kind of thing. So I always try to tell people that, look, there's absolutely no guarantee because it's on you. Look, the onus is on you to actually implement all of this. And bear in mind, I've had some clients, they're like, oh my God, this has worked amazingly, but I only actually implemented like one part of what you said. And I'm like, well, if you implemented the whole thing, it probably would have worked even better, right? But that does obviously then lead to, you get more work further down the line, and you just tell them, well, you just implement the stuff that you didn't implement that I said the last time, I think. But I tend to just offer people money back guarantee. So if they're not happy getting on calls, they're not happy with the quality of the audit, they're not happy with that kind of stuff, they can get a money back, they can get a refund, and I'll give it to them. And so far I've not had a single person ask for one. So I've always just made sure, and also it kind of the power positioning as well, when you're on calls with people, you can tell straight away if they're happy or not. So as long as you're giving them information and you're credible and you know what you're talking about, I won't accept consultancy calls for people who are doing local SEO or things like that, because I'm not an expert in that stuff. I have no idea about the recent Google updates that have anything to do with, map listings and the green icons and the red icons and distance and proximity and all this kind of stuff. That's not my wheelhouse, so I'll just refuse those customers and refund them, right? And I make sure that people send me an overview of what they want beforehand, so that I actually know if I can fulfill or not in the first place. And generally speaking, that gives you even more power, because people are really happy that you've said, look, I can't fulfill this, here's your money back, who should I go to? And then they immediately trust whoever's your recommendation. And generally speaking, I try and get some kind of a commission for referring them to somebody else as well.
Gotcha.
Rub each other's back kind of thing in the process and stuff. But it makes it really easy to kind of have that sales power. If you say, look, I will give you your money back 100% if you are not happy with the services that I've delivered.
Right. The same question for Tom and Jake, but I'm going to twist it a little bit. Of course, how do you kind of manage client expectations? And kind of a mini question built into it. Recently, what I've seen, or probably since I've been in the world of SEO, people sometimes even go on LinkedIn or their Twitter, or X as it's called now, and have a rant at clients being clients, and them proudly announcing, I had to fire this client. Now, I come from a background which has been all about customer care and client care. In my 23 years in restaurants, have I kicked anyone out of the restaurant? Probably once. And I was in depression for the next 5 years that's what I did to my client. Yet I see lots of agency owners proudly saying that. And I've always wondered, mate, that's more brand damage than actually building up your brand and standing up for yourself. What's your take on that, Tom, Jake?
I think there's two parts to it. I'll let Jake answer the firing clients because Jake's the perfect one to discuss that. But I think with guarantees, I think there's two bits to it. Just like what Charles just said about like customer service and that side of stuff. Most definitely, if a client isn't happy for whatever reason in terms of a customer service side, definitely. In terms of guarantees for like rankings and stuff, it's most discovery calls that we have, a client will always say, well, how long will it take to do this, or how long will it take to do that? And I always say, like, I'm not a magician, I'd love to be. Like, if I was psychic and had a crystal ball, I'd be making so much money. But I think there's always a question of, we can do it and we will get there, but it just depends on how long it will take to get there. Yeah. And then a couple of times they've said, oh, well, so-and-so agency said that they can do it in 1 month. And I'm like, well, you go to that agency if you really want. And 9 times out of 10, they always come back to us anyway and be like, oh, they really ripped me off, or this happens. And I think there is a lot of cowboys in the SEO agency and the digital marketing agency, especially like COVID. Everyone was selling courses on how to run an agency and stuff like that for people that never ran an agency in their life, and just doing all these LinkedIn posts. So as I say to everyone, always talk to other agencies, even if they're on the call with us, and just see what other people are doing, because there are always those cowboys out there, and how you present yourself, your case studies, and you'd be surprised the amount of SEOs that don't even do SEO on their own website. Yeah. So I always say to them, have a look at who you're chatting to and see what they're doing on theirs. So yeah, definitely.
Jake?
And I guess the question when it comes to firing, Tom, you really wanted me to answer this. So I've seen a lot on LinkedIn, to be fair. Actually, yesterday there was a post about, I think it was a freelance lady of some description that she fired her client, and she was really happy about it on LinkedIn. I'm not sure if it was something that I would do personally, because I'd be scared that I'd be still connected or have like a second connection request with someone, and I wouldn't want it to come back to me necessarily. So I would keep that out of my LinkedIn. But Tom is a bit more controversial. I'm not sure if he has actually had it on his LinkedIn, but it's probably not been far off a LinkedIn post for Tom. And yeah, I guess firing clients, I used, before our operations manager joined, that was my job, and obviously I quite enjoyed it, especially when we had really rude clients, or clients that thought they know better than us. I quite enjoyed saying, look, we're not a right fit, and just watch them go into a complete pitfall, because that's not what the answer they wanted. They just wanted to keep pushing and pushing, and I say, look, we're not the right client for each other. Perhaps there's a different agency out there or a freelancer you can use. And they'll kind of try and grab me back, like, oh no, actually that's not what I meant. And like, yeah, well, this is what I meant, thank you very much. And I've done it a couple of times, and sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you can get embroiled in other matters that you have to deal with, if you kind of get my drift.
And I think as well, just what Jake said, because me and Jake are quite young, we often get the caveat of, well, you don't really know what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And we've only had to let go of one client ever, and that was a very rocky ship. Our lawyer got involved. He was just saying not very nice things, saying he was going to put all these fake reviews about us online, that we'd done this and done that, and he didn't listen to the advice that we gave. It didn't go very well, and then he started putting his finger in our face and being like, it's your fault. I said, well, no, it's not. But I think because we are quite young, and I have a very baby face, we do get that from time to time. Not as much now, because we have a lot more credibility, but we used to on occasion be like, well, you don't really know what you're doing. We had a call, this was just after COVID, and me and Jake joined the call, and it was a very older gentleman in a suit and tie. Steve, I think I remember sending you a WhatsApp voice note about it, and he said, "Oh, you're not wearing suit and ties, you look like you're 12, you don't know what you're doing." And I said, well, just stop you there. This is everything that we've done, and this is the type of clients we work with, but probably not the best. "Oh no, I didn't mean that."
And
I
Tom,
said, well,
you're forgetting
was
the
it a
part where
joke
he
or
said,
not?
You're forgetting the part where he said, "What is all that in your background?" I said, "Well, I'm currently in my bedroom, which, you know, it's my office at the moment as we're in the middle of a pandemic. So if you want me to go outside and catch COVID, I'll do that for a discovery call, no problem." Do you know what I mean?
Bloody hell. Imagine if I was on a call with that client. It would have ended within the first 7 seconds, really.
Well, it did. It was like a couple of minutes long, and he's, "Oh no, I really apologise." I said, "Well, if you're saying those things on an initial discovery call, we're probably not a good fit for you. All the best." But no, we've only ever had to do it once via a client, because
we've had it all. We've had people lighting up cigarettes on discovery calls. We've had people do all crazy things. I think people just feel really comfortable with us. And me and Tom are typing to each other on Slack going, "What is going on?"
Wow.
I've actually had one discovery call as well where I got the call on, and the guy was shirtless doing biceps.
No way.
On the call, and I was like, "Hi," and he was like, "Oh, hey there," and he carried on doing it, and I was like, "What the heck is going on here?"
What type of call is this?
I know. I was like, "Damn!" And like his business was really random as well. It was like curtains or something. I was like,
Not even gym.
Is this like a bodybuilding call or something? I was like, "What the hell?" But no,
Charles, did you double check the Zoom link when you joined? Were you like,
find the wrong call here. But no, I've had to fire 2 clients actually, and the only time I've ever resorted to it is when they are affecting my staff's morale. Mm-hmm. So I had one client that was actually effectively like bullying one of my employees. Wow. And she'd be lovely, like she's an old school Birmingham lady that's like, you know, she smokes like 40 a day, has the raspiest voice I've ever heard, and she's like nearly 6 foot, so she's quite intimidating anyway. And she was co-owner of this business, and on the phone to me, and when I'd go meet her in person, the loveliest lady you'd ever meet in the world, right? She'd be like trying to give me Christmas presents, trying to take me for dinner, all this kind of stuff. And then when she'd speak to the manager of my company, he was like the enemy. Like it was like, and it really started getting to a point where his self-confidence was getting affected, and it was, you know, his other performance with other clients was starting to come down because he wasn't confident in his own ability, because she was degrading him so much, saying like, "Oh, where's the work? It's not good enough. It's not fast enough. This, you know, we're not earning enough money. We're not doing this. We're not doing that." All of these kind of things. And again, she didn't have any experience in SEO. Like she wasn't, you know. Yeah. I turned around to her and was like, "Do you go and tell the electrician which holes to drill in your wall when he comes around to fix your house?" And stuff? Probably not, right? And she kind of started getting a bit snappy back with me, so I was like, right, at this stage I think it's time to just cut this loose and finish this arrangement. And you know, within 6 months, like I said, she was back trying to pay twice as much and all this kind of
exactly
thing.
That's how it works. Yeah, you're coming back, darling. Yeah, the price is double now. For the distress you've caused me and the bills from the hospital I had to pay for.
Sessions for my manager and things.
So sticking to that kind of aspect of managing agencies. So obviously, Charles, you've had 2 fantastic exits. You've run your agencies. Obviously, you've kind of niched down quite a bit now. I know you don't have a massive team, and I also know you would rather do everything yourself, like a one-man show, whereas compared with Tom and Jake, they're all about scaling up at this stage. I'd love to know all 3 of your opinions. Charlie, you being obviously on both ends of the spectrum, whereas Tom and Jake are still that stage where they're scaling up, and hopefully then they'll be like, fuck it, we want to scale back down and just enjoy life and smoke our cigars. What's more exciting, or what's more satisfying, so to speak? Being a one-man show, or then dealing with all the shenanigans which comes with managing a larger team, a larger portfolio of clients and all of that? I kind of know the answer, but then that's me. I'd love to know what you gents think. Maybe Jake, you want to start first?
Sure. So I guess when it comes to managing and scaling an agency, what I found is that obviously in the early days you do it all yourself, and you do a lot of it yourself, and you do spend a good few 12-hour days a week doing stuff, and you burn out. So it's about getting the right amount of clients to then bring in another pair of hands to do another role that you need doing. The most recent hire for us was an operations manager, and we we probably needed it for longer than we thought, but because we were so involved in it all the time, we couldn't step back and look, what do we need? And obviously, I feel that now we've got an operations manager, it's like someone has literally taken a bag of bricks off my back and Tom's back. Probably a bulldozer off Tom's back, maybe a bag of bricks off mine, because Tom would get all the shit and then it would come to me in the other room. So, but it is weird because I'm a bit of a control freak, and I think Tom is as well. So you do have to kind of let go a bit and go, right, the team is in good hands. But it's about hiring the right people as well. You know, we've hired the wrong people, and we've paid for that. But it's a lesson, and in the future, it's kind of that next step as well of, right, who do we hire next? What department needs to help next? Because I can tell you, I know what the answer would come out of my mouth, as we got particular teams growing rapidly. So we'll just look to scale, see where we can get to, and perhaps world domination is on the cards if I don't have a heart attack.
Brilliant. What do you think, Charles? You've obviously seen both sides of the world.
Yeah, so Mad Singers says the trope that you want to be a CEO, not an SEO, but I completely disagree with him. I really don't like being a CEO, and I actually think that the majority of people in the world shouldn't be a CEO. Right? Like there's only a very small percentage of the population that can actually deal with the stress, deal with managing people, client, like both sides of the coin, where you're dealing with clients and employees, and then you're having to grow the business, operations, deal with meetings, communications, all of these things. That's a very small majority of the population that can actually deal with that amount of stress and that amount of ongoing need and requirements and responsibility and things, right? Most people aren't responsible enough, to be honest, right? And me included, to be fair. I'm just not very good at being responsible for other people, and I tend to have too low emotional intelligence to be able to deal with people's ability to actually say, you know, deep and meaningful things and things. I tend to just be like, not fully understand where they're coming from and stuff, which is not very good when you're trying to manage people. So I very quickly replaced myself within my business, and I made Yudish the CEO of our group at the start of this year, and kind of just let him have free reign over stuff and make decisions every day and not have to, you know, come back to me and constantly be messaging me and stuff. And I really like that approach where I don't have to have that responsibility. I can just put it off on somebody else. They have equity in the business, so they still want to grow it. They still want to be putting time in and growing the business, and still feel like they have part of the business themselves, because they do. But I just really never enjoyed managing a team, never enjoyed managing clients, never enjoyed the CEO side of things. I was always a CMO and an SEO by trade, and I always liked doing those things. So I kind of came across that I never wanted to have a large team. I never necessarily wanted to scale to this huge, you know, billion-dollar company or things like that. That seemed like I was too in the public eye. I was too much responsibility, too much all those kind of things. So I was always trying to stay lean, but I would make very strategic hires, and I would make sure that they were young enough that we could kind of mold them. So all of my team are under 30. Everybody is very high performing what they do, but we have one person for each thing. And if we need to hire inside of a project, we just do contractors. So we'll just hire somebody for a project, and that's it. And they'll be managed by that person who's responsible for their division. So we have one copywriter who's also the editor. We have one developer. We have one designer. We have one CEO. We have one COO, and that's it, right? Again, if we need to hire, we just go on contract basis. I own part of a recruitment agency. It makes it super easy because we have a candidate database which we can just go and pull from. And especially if recently, you know, we've been fulfilling like a head of operations or an account manager or something like that, and we need that specific person, we just go to the best candidates that client didn't like and just go and extract them into our pool. So it makes it very easy to immediately scale whenever I need to, because I can go and hire 10, 20 people tomorrow. And I also know most of the SEO industry anyway. So if I need something very specific, you know, like a technical SEO audit or very specific links from this website or something, I generally know somebody who has access to that. So I don't need the team, and I don't need that kind of people in place to have that ability. And personally, I think that's what has allowed me to have more freedom in my life, more happiness, more, you know, everything from life itself, not necessarily from work, right? Sure.
Tom, you probably in a similar situation where Charles is, because I know you actually started Nautilus, and then obviously Jake came into the business, so you've also seen your business grow. Are you kind of a similar paths and mentality based on what Charlie just said? Do you prefer just being a very small niche team, or are you happy seeing more people around you?
Yeah, so I'm more of a strategic person. Like, I'm not an SEO, but I can put my hands up and say, like, Charles's like SEO knowledge is 1,000 times ahead of mine. But I really enjoy the business side. I mean, I've never had a proper job. So Jake come into Nautilus from working in the IT industry. I went to drama school, pranced about on a stage, did some TV stuff and films.
As you can tell.
Thanks, Jake. So I've never had like a proper job, and I don't understand how all of that stuff works. But I really enjoy like the business side of stuff, and I think now that we have our operations manager, we have an operations team, it's a lot better for me because I can focus on strategic stuff like conferences and working with partners and referral programs and stuff like that. I love our team, and I always hire people that are like massively smarter than me, especially for SEO. And yeah, we've spoke about like our accountants have said, oh, you know, you're thinking of like starting the business soon and things like that. And Jake's like, sometimes yes, because it's really stressful. But it's a bit like a drug in a sense that it just keeps you going and going and going. Like, before we had our operations manager, me and Jake would be working until 2-3 a.m. in the morning because we just wanted to crack on and just get things done. And Jake's like, oh, you know, I'm going to play Call of Duty or RuneScape or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, but I really want to do this and this. I'm a bit like a golden retriever. Like, I have so much energy. And I don't think we'd ever sell it, not anytime soon, because then I'd just get bored and then want to do something else. I'm too hyper for that, my ADHD.
With your past experiences, Tom, you forgot to mention your OnlyFans page as well.
I've got the face for it, but not anything else, Steve, unfortunately.
Gents,
I also think it's sometimes better that you never had a real job sometimes, though, because generally speaking, people who go from 9 to 5 to being entrepreneurial, they actually struggle going from 9 to 5 to 24/7, right? That's the thing.
Jake did it first.
Yeah, people are used to switching off and like going from work to life, and like you don't have that if you're an entrepreneur. You're just going from work to more work generally. So it means that like a lot of people who do go and like transition from 9 to 5, they really struggle, and it kind of overwhelms them. And that, I generally think that's why a lot of businesses don't succeed, is because they don't know how to manage their time. They don't know how to put that time into their business effectively, and they're just losing to competitors that do. So I actually think that there is some room for, it's better to just be able to work constantly from the get-go and not have that 9 to 5 where you have the breaks and things.
I agree. I'm going to wrap this up, gents, by asking one last question. So of course people can reach out to you, LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever that might be, but I think the real value is driven when people actually meet you face to face, which is clearly during conferences. So gents, what's your next pit stop? Where can people find you? Where's your next conference? Tom?
We are going to SEO Vibes in Cyprus, and then we're also going to the International Search Summit in Barcelona, and a few others.
Tom?
Where first? Cyprus, right, Steve?
I thought it was the other way around, personally.
Yeah, I think it's Barcelona first.
I think it's Barcelona first.
It is.
But I think
It's Barcelona first, yeah. We'll go with that.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
I'm also Tom's PA, if you haven't realised.
I'm sure some of the audience figured it out already. What about you, Charles?
So I'm debating on where I'm going next. I don't know if Corey is still doing his event in Istanbul in September. If
Probably
he is,
not.
I will be. No, I don't think he is. But I will be there if he's doing that. Otherwise, it will be a HF conference if I'm going to that. Otherwise, it will be Chiang Mai if I'm going to that. I haven't actually got any confirmed plans or tickets for any of them. But I will go to something, and I'll probably go to Cyprus as well. I just need to figure out how to fly from Thailand to get there and stuff. It's a bit of a wonky flight, but we'll sort it out.
We'll find something, surely. You know, we'll obviously exchange lots of link juice, ice cold.
Will we now?
But no, gents, it's always a pleasure. I think that's where the real knowledge nuggets are shared, as we all say, and as Matt Singers has always said. Conference is all about networking, you know, getting to be friends, you know, and podcasts are just kind of that first step towards getting the human side of, you know, successful businessmen as yours in front of the audience, so they know they can actually approach you, have a chit chat, you know. Otherwise, you know, there's kind of, people will be scared in conferences. So listen, I can't thank all three of you enough. This has been really good fun. It was less SEO, more about business and all of that, but I think you can't answer the same question in a different way about Google algorithm updates or site reputation abuse, because nothing's changed. So I'm not going to just ask the same question again where people know what the answer is going to be. They can just go back and play Charles's own YouTube channel or Tom's podcast 2 months ago. So it's been good fun, gents. Thank you so much. Wish you, of course, many more successes this year. Thanks again for your time, and hope to see you soon.
Thanks, Steve.
Brilliant.
Thanks,
Cheers,
Steve.
guys.
Thanks for the invite.
Pleasure.
Thanks for having me.